o'clock. Yeah.
Come on.
Hello.
Hi, come on. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Hey, Narcissa. This is the AV tech at the boardroom. Can you hear us?
Good, I can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. I was having technical difficulty on this end. So, just to let you know, the board took a 2-minute recess as I was setting up the phone call. So, we'll reconvene shortly.
Okay, no problem. I'll sit here quietly and keep it on mute so you don't get noise from this end.
Thank you.
Please return to the dais and have a seat for the audience.
Do not wordsmith me on this one. Shall become may, could should be would.
Yeah.
She is.
Okay. Okay.
What do you mean? Oh,
Okay, let's go to item 5.3.
you know what?
right here.
She's got me. What else do you want? Huh?
Okay, where's Vivian? Okay. That's Vivian. I got it.
Do we need to make a motion on this, or is this informational?
This is action?
Action. So we needed to make,
Because you have the draft list.
okay. If we have 3 people, can we continue?
Yes.
Okay. 5.3, final approval of the superintendent president profile. This is a action item, so I need a motion. Okay,
Second it.
okay, moved by trustee Otto, seconded by trustee Kellogg. Is there any discussion? And we have Narcissa Poblado on the line in case there's any questions. This profile has come to the board. It has been sent out as a survey. It has been on the website for recommendations. It went to the screening committee last week. And so we would like to have this approved tonight so that we can get it on the website for the search for the superintendent president. Yes, trustee Kellogg.
No, just thank you to all the people that contributed to the document. I hope it leads to a successful candidate, and obviously I'm supportive of the motion, and we move forward. Thank
Okay.
you.
Trustee
Second.
Otto? Oh, you, okay,
Was your motion made?
Yes.
Okay, and was seconded?
yes.
Okay.
Do you have any comments?
She wants me to call the vote, the roll.
Are we doing discussion?
Yeah, we're doing discussion.
Okay, do you have any comments, trustee Zia?
No, I believe trustee Alejandro Lomelli may have some comments and questions.
Student trustee Lomelli, do you have questions?
Yeah, I think this might be more of a question directed to Narcissa. I'm one of the individuals that sit on the search committee, so we went through this document in our preliminary meeting, and it might go along with Rose as well. But when we were discussing the minimum qualifications, as you saw maybe before the previous draft, that there was a line item under minimum qualifications. Oh, thank you very much. It was progressive senior level management experience, and there was a line that said afterward, with regards to some formalities around like the urban area, and we felt, to my understanding in the search committee, that not coming from maybe an urban area or not really defining what urban or rural really was really sort of a barrier for any applicant. So to my understanding, we decided to move that from a minimum qualification to a desirable qualification. I see now that number 3 in the minimum qualifications specifically states that evidence of that the person applying would have evidence of a sensitivity to and understanding of the diverse academic, socioeconomic, cultural, disability, and ethnic backgrounds of community college students. Again, in the search committee, we felt that, and I'll speak for myself then, so I don't want to speak for the committee, but I feel that we are limiting a lot of individuals if we decide to pool it specifically for individuals that understand the community college system. We might have applicants that come out of the community college system, and I don't know if the board feels as if that's a minimum qualification, but for me and maybe other members of the committee, we felt that that would be moved away from a minimum as towards a desirable qualification.
Well, you are correct. The key here is the word understand, which gives the committee a lot of flexibility in defining what understanding means. It doesn't necessarily mean specific experience. I think the decision was that there's enough flexibility there that the group will be able to discuss and have ample opportunity to consider very diverse candidates. So the key is the word understood, which is very different than experience. So that provides a lot of flexibility. I hope that's helpful.
Okay, so this concerns me. Did we deviate from what the committee recommended? Because it sounds like from what Alejandro just shared, it was not something that the committee agreed to.
Rose, could perhaps, since you were there and you're the chair
Yeah.
of the committee,
Yeah, let me provide a little bit of clarity. If we're talking specifically under the minimum qualifications, item number 3, is that correct, Alejandra? That language is required under Title V for these kinds of positions, for a management position. So that's specific language out of Title V. And that's something we talked about in the committee. I don't know if you remember when I said we need to add that language, and I'll get it to Narcissa and to Jose, who was sitting next to me. So I provided that to them, and they've now included it.
So is it fair to assume that nothing has been changed other than the requirements of the law that we had to bake in from what the committee
From what their input
agreed?
was. They've also had an opportunity in between the time that all the input was taken and developed into this formal document to provide added input, and as I understand from Narcissa, nobody provided any additional.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Otto?
Yeah, and by the way, it's here for us to make the final decision as to what the appropriate language is. And I don't think there's any requirement that we do exactly what the search committee says if we don't want to. Obviously, we give great deference to what it is that they say, but with Rose's clarification that this is required by Title V, California Code of Regulations, it seems like a no-brainer that we would do this. And by the way, I don't know who we would eliminate by making this one of the minimum qualifications, and especially with Narcissa's, Polonia's letting us know that all you have to do is have an understanding of this. It doesn't mean you can't be the CEO of a nonprofit, but never having worked in the community college world if you still have an understanding of all these things. So I think it's a red herring.
That's correct.
Did you just,
Yeah.
I thought she was sticking out her tongue.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, I don't see warm and fuzzy on there. I know we discussed that, but Narcissa, I'm gonna, wait for a revision to include the words warm and fuzzy per our discussion.
The problem there with warm and fuzzy is that could be interpreted in so many different ways. But I trust you have a wonderful committee, and I believe that group is going to really look at people, look at their persona, look at their qualifications, and really give you some candidates that have a great track record in unifying and reaching consensus, a natural collaborator. Just from the discussion of the committee, I have a lot of faith that you have the right combination of people who are going to really look out for the interests of the students and the district and do well by the board.
Okay, Trustee Otto?
And my concern is if you were to add warm and fuzzy, it emphasizes warm in front of fuzzy, and if there might be some people that would think fuzzy was more important than warm, and so I think we should leave the whole thing out.
May I ask a question, President Baxter? And you may have already covered this, Narcissa, and perhaps I missed it. So once we approve this profile, if we approve this profile, what is the next step? And did the committee discuss how many applicants are going to be presumably shortlisted for us to interview?
Oh, excellent question, excellent question. If you recall, when I met with you a while back, I shared with you an array of documents that will be presented to the committee, and one of them was the charge from you to the committee that request that the committee present to the board at minimum 3 candidates, maximum 5, with the understanding that if we want to go to 6, there's that level of flexibility, and that you as the board are requesting these candidates to be submitted to you unranked, so that the board will have an opportunity to independently meet with those, interview, get additional feedback, background reports on those candidates, and be able to make a selection. So you will have at least 3. As I explained to the committee, 2 is not acceptable because if 1 drops out, then there's no choice. So we have to make sure that you have a choice of at least 3 candidates. Is that helpful?
I think so. I just, I would suggest that 3 is not enough for us to interview, and 5 at a minimum, just so we can, since they're not being ranked, to look at the options that we have. That's just a suggestion for us to consider.
I think that's very good guidance, and we will definitely do our very, very best to give you as many choices as possible.
Yes, I don't think that needs to be decided right now. It's not in the profile, and that is what we are approving right now.
Right, so the next step is, are we, is the committee gonna, I'm sorry, I can't recall, as far as the timing goes, that it's gonna come back to the board at a certain time
Oh,
in February?
absolutely.
When is that again?
Rose, go, March.
Well, right now, as of now, we have interviews set for March 7th and 8th.
Okay.
So it should be shortly after that.
Interviews
Exactly.
with the selection committee
Right,
or
correct.
the screening committee.
Right.
No,
Okay.
they interview in February. The selection committee interviews in February and then brings it to the board in
In Mar-
March?
Actually,
That's what
the
I
date was changed.
Oh,
And so the new date at this time is February 7th and 8th. I mean, March 7th and 8th.
for which interviews?
For the selection committee, for the first level interviews.
Okay, 7th and 8th of March for the selection committee, and February's, nobody gets interviewed in February?
Correct. There were a lot of conflicts when we met with the committee. There were a lot of conflicts in calendars. during February.
Didn't we approve that schedule in the last board meeting? So are you guys going to revise that schedule and bring it to us for our review and approval so that we're apprised?
You don't have to approve the schedule. The charge was presented to them on your behalf. So the committee already knows that the hopes is that they will present to you 3 to 5 candidates. If your preference is to emphasize 5, you can just say that, and we will do our very best to make that happen. So it doesn't require board action.
Narcissa, may I ask, I'm a little concerned about moving the interviews into March just because we may lose people in the process. And I thought that the people on the committee were told that they had to have the month of February available.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I can go back to the committee, okay? If you're telling me, and I'd be happy to do it, to go back to the committee and see if we can interview in February, your desire shall be carried out. That's all you have to do is tell us, and we'll get back to the committee and look at the schedule again and find time to do it.
President Baxter, I would support that. I think you're absolutely spot on. We just don't have the luxury of time. And you're absolutely right. We may lose folks.
That is my concern. Trustee Malauulu?
Okay.
Wait a second, Narcissa.
Narcissa, sorry, earlier I didn't introduce myself. I don't know if you recognize me. I'm sick, so my voice is off. But I also agree that I don't think it's wise for us to just completely, not have any movement, any forward motion in the month of February because of people's schedules. The college cannot wait. One of the stipulations when people were appointed to the committee was that they needed to be available, and I don't think putting things off the entire month of February is wise or helpful to us. Please, return to the committee and let them know that was one. I don't remember if it was a requirement that we stated or what we said, but I do remember saying that they needed to make themselves available. So it is not acceptable that a whole month is going to go by without any action. So please let them know. If the deadline for applications is January 18th, I believe, is that correct? And
That's correct.
if we get a qualified pool of applicants, by all means, we need to schedule interviews and preliminary interviews and start, determining process of elimination who we don't want, and then narrow it down to those candidates that we do want, so that come March, April, we'll have a better assessment of where we need to go with this. But please do that. Thank you.
Thank you for these comments, and Rose and I have already discussed this earlier today. of reaching out to the committee and see if we can narrow some of these dates and get it back into February. So you have our word that we're going to work on this, and we will report directly to the board the new set of days for the interview.
Okay, thank you. Karen, do you want to say anything since you were there? Or would you rather not?
No, I'll just say that we really did examine schedules. And I don't know that the committee was ever told that they had to reserve February, because a lot of the community appointed folks were the ones that were having scheduling conflicts. So we already did, but I clearly Rose and Narcissa can go back and ask again. But we went day by day through February.
Okay, because I know.
But if you remember correctly, in most dates it was one or two people that really had conflict. So I think it's worthwhile going back and giving the committee another moment to consider this. If we can't do it, I will come back and report to the board. But let's really try to accommodate the board's request, and we'll do our best. We'll try again.
Well,
Okay.
I appreciate that, because I know specifically my person, I told him he had to be available. Another person, my first choice for my district rep, couldn't do it because she was going on a cruise in February. I said, well, you're not, then I'm sorry, you can't do it. And then when Guy Heston was asked from the foundation, I sent him an email, do you understand that you need to be available the whole month of February? So I don't know how other people communicated, but it was fairly certain in my mind. But
President
anyway.
Baxter, I think the classified representative on the committee, Thomas Hamilton, is in the audience. Maybe I think he wants to say something that can add to the. Would you like to come to the podium?
Good evening, trustees. The only thing with the committee being as large as it is, I think, and that's what part of the deal is, like what Karen was talking to and Rose was talking to and Alejandro was talking to, that maybe the first initial report was the certainty as far as like having it done in February. Because then that's the case, I'm saying, like, judging by, and I know part of that stuff that went on in the committee is confidential in there, and I don't know how far we go on this, is that when you have that many people involved in it, if you're going to put it on fast track, I don't know if that committee needs to be reduced from those, like you says, if you can't have interviews or meetings as far as like in February, is somebody going to have to remove themselves from that? And then in saying that, and I know that, like in President Baxter, like if you appointed somebody and somebody hasn't gone there, is that going to mix up the pool or the diversity in the group that's in the pool of the committee members that's in attendance? So, you know, you do your best to get representation from everybody and everybody having a slice of the pie, and then you're going to turn around and says, well, I want to cut this pie up fast, and you go, now when you have, what do we have, 20 people roughly?
20-something, yeah.
Okay, and you have that many people, and you said, well, we had all these schedules, and now it sounds like you're going to have the committee come back together to turn around and says, okay, now we need to knock this out and have 20 or 15 people, 18 people be ready to go in February in order to get this done to your satisfaction?
Well, I certainly don't want to lose any committee members. Maybe
Look, if I-
Rose, your suggestion I liked.
So let me ask this, because I do recall almost distinctly that the original date that was put out was February 21st for interviews, and there happened to be one person who couldn't do it. And in the interest of being inclusive and
Yeah.
allowing everybody to participate, we moved off February 21st. So I need to ask the board, and I think maybe Narcissa might agree with me, what is your priority? Is your priority to fast track it, or is it to include all the committee members?
Can I just ask a question on that? And was this person a community member?
No, I can't remember. I just can't. Was it? Okay, I'm going to nod that it was.
If it's a community member, we
Yeah,
all gave two suggestions. Maybe we can have the alternate, the second person, fill that position, given the lack of availability of the original appointee. It's just a suggestion. Maybe we can discuss that in here.
Well, yeah, I think we have some options available to us, and so Narcissa Narcissa, you and I can look at the reframing of how we communicate with the committee and how we compel people to meet in February.
I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. And trustee Malauulu?
Two things. One is when I made my appointment, I submitted an alternate. And I believe that, I don't know if I just submitted an alternate because I thought it was a good thing to do or if I remember someone saying that. But if the main appointment is unavailable on X date, then you go to the alternate for that person. Even though I understand that they might not have been present at the previous meetings, but at least there's a body there. And also, have you tried, Google Doodle calendars?
Oh, yeah.
and- Okay.
Well, we'll have to probably do it this time around.
Doodle and.
I mean, everyone was present last meeting,
Okay.
so we
Thank
personally
you.
asked everybody.
Yeah. We can jump on this and get it done very quickly. Let's see if it can be resolved. This is important to the board, and our job is to make things happen for you. So
Call for the
I'm sure
question.
the committee will accommodate some flexible schedule.
Okay, the question has been called, so let's have a,
Virginia Baxter,
aye.
Jeff Kellogg,
Yeah.
Vivian Malauulu,
Aye.
Doug Otto,
Aye.
and Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Can I ask a question now? All right. Okay, and I know now we're out of order, but this was a motion simply to approve.
Right.
The profile.
And
That's
and
right.
when somehow we got off onto a timeline, that we had a timeline in the document, and somehow that timeline got skewed, not because of this board, because we were very clear what we wanted to do. It's not fast-tracking anything. It's following a timeline that we had put in place.
You're right.
The whole other issue that came out, the only question I had was for the benefit of my colleagues, is that is when all the applications come in, is this board going to be privy to the list of applicants that have come in as well as the committee? That was my simple question I wanted to ask. I don't know what we've done. I think the last time I got to see all the applicants, so I was aware of who did apply, but I didn't have any say in it. But that was my question. Is that going to happen?
President Baxter, I believe I had this question last time, and I brought it up again during discussion. And I know we're out of order, so perhaps we shouldn't continue this conversation. But for what it's worth, the answer was no. We're not going to get all the applications. We're going to get the shortlisted candidates, and that's why I asked that we get 5 people minimum, and we reserve the right to look at everyone's applications should the 5 not be the people that we're interested in. That was specifically what I brought up last time, and I share your concern, Trustee Kellogg.
But what, can I? So I know it's not on the agenda, but can I get some clarification from our consultant as to, in your experience in these search processes, first of all, with regard to this process, has there been a decision made by this body or anybody else as to whether all the applications are available, and what's your experience as to whether that's a good idea or not?
Okay. This is an issue of trust and collaboration. However, the responsibility of appointing the next president superintendent rests with the board. The board has delegated some of its authority to a search committee to do the first stage of the process. And in every board, I find that some trustees feel very comfortable with that and will say, I don't need to review the application. Okay? What I typically suggest is once a recommendation is made by the committee and the board reviews those, if the full board desires to look at the full pool, that decision can be made at that point. But right now, we're just speaking in the abstract. So I think it's important to trust the process, trust that the committee will do the very best job and send you the very best candidate. And then once it comes back to the board does have the right, the board, not individual trustees, the board to say, we want to take a peek at the full pool. Now, I'm going to tell you that the quality of the candidates that the committee is going to forward to you should be of such level that you won't have that interest. But if you do have that interest, it may be that we need to expand the pool, and there may be some other issues. For example, sometimes candidates do drop out that the committee recommended. And therefore, some trustees may say it might be wise for us to look and see if there's anybody else we want to bring up. If that is the case, what I usually recommend is that the committee, aside from recommending 5, also consider identifying some alternates for the board to also consider. But I think it's premature at this point to consider that decision. Let's get through the process. Let's get the recommendation to you. And then as a board, you can make the decision whether you want to go back into the pool or not. Is that a reasonable approach?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And might I suggest that we put an information item on the agenda for our January 24th board meeting, which will be after the application deadline, so that we can get an update, if the board desires, to see how many applicants we have, because we may find that we don't have enough, or, you know, Narcissa, you may tell us that in your opinion, we may not have enough qualified that we want to look at, and that would give the board the opportunity to extend the deadline and maybe push it. Not that that's going to be necessary, but I think it would be better to have it agendized so that we can not violate the Brown Act and have that discussion on January 24th.
Sounds good.
That's very appropriate, very appropriate.
Okay. All right. We've already voted, so this is very, very good discussion, and we will move on to the consent agenda. And thank you, Narcissa.
Thank you.
You can go to bed now.
Thank you, thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, consent. No, not yet. Consent agenda. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately if a member of the Board of Trustees so requests. Any requests?
Yes, 6.4 and 6.8.
I
Okay.
have one, 6.12.
Okay, and I have 6.6. Wow. So
So I'll make a
6.4,
motion.
6.6, 6.8, and 6.12 will be removed.
I'll make a motion to approve the remaining consent calendar items.
Okay, approved by trustee Kellogg, seconded by trustee Otto, to approve the remainder of the consent items.